Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello. How you doing? Waving at an old DJ friend of mine. You can see through the window. It's Tuesday, October 17th, and my sister Susan's joining us from Chicago. Hi, Suze.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. I am fine. Let me talk.
Good.
Yeah.
I was really asking.
I know. Well, let me talk myself into it. I think I am. Yeah, I'm okay. Hey, listen, before we get started, I got to do this thing because once the show starts, I forget to do it. I'm supposed to promote this party we got going on Thursday, so let me do that. So we're having a party Thursday, City Paper. It's the best of City Paper party. Suze, you know how a lot of newspapers or magazines that are city, like Pittsburgh Magazine or Chicago. Do you have a Chicago magazine there?
Of course.
Yeah. And alternative weeklies, they have they let their readership vote on their favorite restaurants and personalities and all that. Do you do that? Whatever.
Yep.
We do. And anyway, and then after the votes have been tallied, we have a big party and all the winners get to come, and then anybody else gets to go. And I just need to tell my audience that you're invited, and it's at the Ace Hotel in Liberty at 7 p.m. this Thursday. And all the restaurants that won all the food categories bring some stuff. So there's lots of good food and live performances and a silent disco. Suze, do you know what a silent disco is?
A silent disco?
Yeah. No. See, I didn't
know,
either.
You all put on headphones and dance to whatever music you want?
See how smart she is? That is correct, Susan. And
that is correct?
Yes! You're a good guesser. You always have been. She's the bullshitter extraordinaire and good time guesser. I mean, wow. Anyway, so you get all that. You get 2 complimentary beverages. Silent disco, babe. And I don't even know how much a ticket costs, but go to cooltix.com and find out. COOLTIX. And you'll get $10 off, whatever it is, if you put my name in the promo code. Lynn Cullen. That would be it. Okay, that's Thursday. You don't have anything to do. It's supposed to be a nice night. Oh, so Susan.
Yeah, I am a good guesser.
Yeah, you've always been a good guesser. I mean, guessing has to do with, what? Is that deductive reasoning?
Yeah.
Is it?
It's absolutely deductive reasoning.
So you would do really well on a multiple choice test. Given...
If I were not too anxious to think I would.
Right. Okay. Well, yes, that's always part of it. Yeah. Right. So, before we get into some of the heavier stuff, although it's hard to be heavier than this, I want to talk about a story I don't understand at all, but it blows my mind, just like it blew the minds of every astronomer on Earth. Did you see these 2 dead stars collided? Susan, I don't even know what a dead star is, but 2 of them collided. They're so far away.
And then they made gold, right?
They make gold and silver. Bang. Who ever heard of such a thing? 130 million light years away from here, and astronomers all over the world went berserk because they saw it. I mean, they saw this blip that was it. They saw the sound wave of it. So in other words, I mean, sensors here on Earth picked it up. Do you know how far away it is? It's in another friggin' galaxy, a million gazillion blazes. And here's the weird thing. It's never been known, but it's not proven, but people think that it is the collision and the explosion that results of these kinds of dead planets that produce the heavier elements. Gold, silver, uranium.
Well, we're beginning to understand them why they're so valuable. I mean, because we got to sit around and wait for two dead stars to find each other collide, and then we got to wait a few millennia for the heavier elements to pierce our solar system.
No, I don't even. It says, listen to this. So all the atoms that are in your wedding band, all of the atoms in the treasures of King Tut, all of the atoms that destroyed Hiroshima formed in such an explosion. I don't understand any of it. I mean, and get this, the mass of these stars is as great as the sun's mass packed into a region the size of Manhattan. Take the sun's mass and stick it, densify that baby down to Manhattan Island. I mean, I can't even, that's why we could hear this explosion that far away or be aware of it, right? I just don't get this stuff.
No, it is really physics in general is something that it's just very difficult for me to wrap my brain around.
Right, my head can't either.
I mean, I just accept what is told to me to be a fact, but to actually study it and get it, I don't.
I don't either. So you have to have a certain kind of brain. It's not ones we have. But again, just in terms of the density of it, here's another metaphor that they came up with. It is as if you packed the density of Mount Everest in a teaspoon. Jesus. And so when these two things collide, all kinds of stuff bursts out. It says gamma rays, X-rays, radio waves, which is why all these astronomers picked it up in some way or the other. And here's one of them. They're all like going just berserk. One of them is quoted as saying, "I can't think of a similar situation in the field of science in my lifetime where a single event provides so many staggering insights into our universe." So, anyway, that happened. It's weird to think of all the things we can't wrap our head around. And they're the big ones. They're they're like the things that would allow you to eventually be able to answer a question like, where does life come from? If you don't want to say God, right? I don't know.
Well, but it is interesting that this single event can just flat out answer a whole bunch of things for people that have been making, educated guesses. And now here's some real, actual, real-time, I mean, in the sense that it happened a long time ago, but now we just get to see it here.
Yeah.
Real-time action.
Yeah. Stephen here reminds us of a quote from Carl Sagan, which is apt, and it is this: "We are star stuff." Wow. We are star stuff. When it comes right down to it, that's what we are. Okay, so there was that. That's pretty neat, even if I don't get it. Isn't it amazing that some people...
Lynn, I got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah? You got to go?
No, but you are cutting out for like 10-second blocks on me here and there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that is. I'm going to keep...
like when I said, Lynn, can you hear me? I hadn't been able to hear you for countable seconds.
Okay. I don't know what to do about that. Let's just soldier on. You let me know if it's...
I'll soldier on, but if I seem to not...
be there.
To be being a little weird here, it's because I'm really concentrating and not hearing everything.
Does it drop off completely or just go down? I don't get it.
No, it gets staccato and cuts off ends of words all the time, and that's not so bad, but every once in a while there's a longer blip of seconds where I miss clearly words or phrases.
Well, this is starting to sound like a good old Lynn Cullen show then.
It does.
Why?
I just wanted you to know that, what's the, this is the very definition of snafu.
Yeah, that's the Lynn Cullen show. Snafu. Situation. What is the end for?
Situation normal, all fucked up.
Situation normal, all fucked up. Right. We have a caller, Susan. Let's see if we can hear the caller, or he can hear us.
Okay.
Hello, caller.
Yes, good morning, Lynn.
Hi.
You were talking about science topics this morning. There's a new computer supposed to be coming out from Google. It's a quantum computer.
Yeah.
So right now we're using binary. And if they go to quantum levels, it'll completely revolutionize everything. Like as Susan was talking about time and space, and we'll be able to really get into depths of things that were unimaginable with just binary computers.
Like
So
what? Like what? Like I don't want anything more. What?
Well, quantum is where two things can be in the same atoms can be in the same place at the same time.
Oh, in other words, so these new computers, we can time travel?
Well, that's what it sort of is like. Quantum is like, even Einstein couldn't figure it out, but scientists, we use quantum mechanics every day, but it's like it's not Newtonian. Like Newtonian 1 + 1 = 2, and quantum 1 + 1 = infinity. So it's too. I don't know.
All right, you can't explain it either, but things are about to get more
it's pretty
absurd.
magical things. But
All right.
if that comes down the line, then it'll totally revolutionize, because, like I said, we're just very limited with binary. When you go to quantum, it's boom.
It's a quantum change when you go to quantum.
Len, you're the best.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you now.
Bye.
All right.
Susan.
I don't know. I'm frightened.
Excuse me. I'm still trying to get used to these pathetic little binary computers, okay? And what they can do. This just fits into my whole nightmare scenario of things changing so fast that we're all just going to be left like, just totally.
Well, here's the good news. You and I are so old that we'll be dead soon, so maybe we don't have to deal with this.
Well, I know.
And here's the further bad news. I mean, with Trump and the Rocket Man, none of us might have to worry about any of it.
Well, that's true. We could all just be blown away. That would be
so. Live for today, tra-la. Although that doesn't stop me from getting randomly pissed off at things.
No,
Can I
I'm
tell you
sure.
what upset me this morning?
All right, Susan, let's hear what got your dander up.
Well, I was just, as I frequently do, I was just going over, newspapers early this morning, and just to make sure that I might have a vague idea of what we would potentially be discussing. And I come across, I'm trying to get to it, a headline for Paul Krugman's op-ed.
Yeah.
And the headline, the title of the piece is
Stupid.
The GOP is no party for honest men. And for some reason,
you got mad?
That just got me.
Why? Because they're all lying through their teeth.
Here's Paul Krugman. It's just white men talking about other white men and refusing to exist that anybody else has any voice, any power, should even be noticed in so much as a headline. How hard is it to say the GOP is no party for honest people?
Oh, I see. Because it is all friggin' white men. Practically.
Well, no, the party isn't. That led me to Google the breakdown of political parties by gender.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it took me a while to find one that they were all talking about white men the most too. If you go to Pew Research, but it turns out the Republican Party is around 50% women.
Okay. So this was
mostly white.
This was a feminist response to the headline. I didn't understand that. Okay.
It's not even.
It was
it's
the
just
men.
because
You're
I'm
sick of being
pretty,
discounted. You're sick of being discounted.
I'm just tired of being continually, by definition, marginalized.
Right. Well, get used to it, babe. You were born with a uterus. That's what happened to you.
Well, we can all go at Me Too all we want. My response to that is, hey, it would be quicker if every woman who's never been sexually harassed or assaulted said, I'm over here.
Exactly
because
right.
All of us.
Exactly right.
All of us can say
Right.
at Me Too.
That's
Bullshit.
right. I know. I agree totally
So when
with
you follow up the day of Me Too with, this just casual, you aren't even alive, baby. You don't even count, honey. I get pissed off.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you to calm down because I was telling people the worst thing you can say to a pissed off woman is calm down, right?
Yeah, because then the next thing that you hear is, you calm down.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's like, don't tell me. Women are always being told to calm down. Do you know that?
Right.
Yeah, right. Or smile. That's the other one.
Usually by some man
Right.
who's done whatever he felt like doing, and then when the woman got pissed off, she was told, no.
Yeah.
Did it say like bad before?
No, it's a good. That's the thing. Like I checked it.
So let's check now.
Are we back?
Yeah, I think we're back.
Okay. It's a good thing we weren't swearing or saying anything untoward. Okay, I'm just telling Susan to call back.
No, she's still in.
Oh, she's on?
She's still. The host is, and then.
Susan, you there? She's coming. No, not yet. Hi, Suze. We were getting you connected. Hang on a minute, guys. We're just about hooked up, right? So you all can hear me.
Calling call-in studio host and call screener line. Please enter your show number.
Wait. Okay, so I don't know when it's interesting we were talking about snafu, situation normal, all fucked up. And then, so I think Susan's problem was just a canary in the coal mine to what ended up happening, which is the computer went down for some reason, went offline. I don't understand any of it. Okay, she's trying to call back. All right, I'm going to keep talking until we get everything back, if any of you are still there. Everything is fine now. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you letting us know. I mean, I would have kept on babbling, having no idea that I was off. So thank you all for letting us know what was going on. And we'll just try to get Susan back in, and we're cool. Susan, are you there? Susan, are you there? 1 minute. It just goes on. Who knew? Okay, Suze?
Yeah.
Thank you. There you are. All right, don't ask me. It was on our end totally. That must have been why you were going in and out. I was going in and out for you, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Where were we? It doesn't matter.
I don't know. I was screaming about being marginalized and harassment, but enough. Calm down.
Well, here, wait, but Mary wrote in. Oh, no. Mary wrote in, it's almost funny. It's hanging out with, I don't know. But the cyber gods are fucking with us. The podcast is doing a loop of you and Susan saying, women are always being told to settle down. She says, I also tried to call in and was on hold for a long time, and then I heard a click, but not you. All righty then. She's saying it was just sort of everything was going wrong. You can call back if you want, but let me check back in. Susan even texted me saying, well, damn, and we didn't even get to talk about the drug czar who wasn't the drug, how that story that I had told people we would talk about today, the DEA story and the unbelievable corruption of our government. He's withdrawn, and wow, that's journalism doing its job, huh?
Well, yeah, but now what are we going to do about the law that they passed that Obama didn't even know what was in because he signed it?
Right.
He bought the lobbyist cell that it was, protecting, poor patients who wouldn't be able to get their pain pills.
Well, I mean, this was one of those things,
Susan.
Susan.
It was protecting the drug company's right to continue to flood the market with excessive amounts of
to make money,
that are
to kill
frankly
people,
killing our children and our young parents
Susan,
in
Susan,
large numbers.
Susan, can you hear me at all?
I can hear you every once in a while.
Because I was trying to interrupt you for a few times there. Did you hear me?
No.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, but. So they'll fix this thing and they'll go back and give the DEA the ammunition it needed. But this is how good that law was written, and of course it was written by former DEA enforcers who were hired by the law firms who work for the pharmaceutical companies. You can imagine they come dangling twice as they come dangling 2 to 3 times what they're making. And so they go and then they tell them, here's what the DEA's doing and here's how you would subvert that. And they did it. So from the minute that law was passed, there was not a single enforcement action, suspension order targeted at a distributor of opioids or a manufacturer of opioids from that time, while overdose deaths.
They raised the standard to.
Well, right, that was what they did.
Actually produce us a dead body and draw a straight line to the proper drug company before you can even initiate an action.
Right. Listen to how bad it was, and it shows how corrupted Congress is. There was no debate on this bill. All these people who voted for it, it was like unanimous consent. It just was like one of those, listen, guys, this is just a nothing bill, they were told, and let it go right through. And then somebody let the White House down by not vetting it properly and told Obama, this is cool. Everybody said Democrats voted for it, Republicans, nobody voted against it. So, listen to this. This is beyond belief. One mid-size opioid distributor shipped 20 million doses to pharmacies in West Virginia over just a 5-year period. Now, that's one of the red flags that they would have gone after them and closed them down. This bill did not allow them then to do it. 11 million doses went to one county in West Virginia. that has a population of 25,000 people. 11 million doses went to a county with 25,000 people in it.
But I want you to understand that what we're talking about is people that our drug companies are legally getting hooked on opioids. But that what happens is that they then just slide, down to heroin because opioids are synthetic heroin and heroin's cheaper. And then we have this mass heroin addiction problem and all the dead bodies piling up. It's why we have libraries.
We are down. We got some kind of problem we're not clear about. Now I'm back. They think I'll be back.
We're back on that same loop.
Oh, shit. Well.
I'm watching you do emails. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can hear you. You couldn't hear me, though, which was a new wrinkle. I mean, you could hear me if you weren't talking. But when you were talking, you couldn't hear me, which that doesn't work well
No, not
either.
at all.
Okay, so that's an additional problem. Okay, I'm being told, okay, you guys can see me now and hear me, right? And Susan. So I guess we'll just I'm gonna change the subject, if you don't mind. Okay. Are we back or not? Because somebody just said you're off. Okay, well, that's just a latecomer. Okay, the AC, listen to this. This is mind-boggling. I didn't see it get any media yet. This is a Pennsylvania story, but the ACLU here has been doing a report on and analyzing an analysis of they looked at the last 7 years of data on marijuana arrests in the state. And it is un-effing believable. As marijuana becomes more and more acceptable to more and more people, even as Pennsylvania actually has started, acknowledging that medical marijuana should be available, even as acceptance grows, the war on marijuana continues, and this is mind-boggling because you would expect arrests for just simple possession of marijuana to be going down. Like, who gives a shit? Listen to this. Arrests of adults in Pennsylvania are up 33% in the last 6 years. They're up. They're arresting more and more and more. And what's driving this mostly is the friggin' Pennsylvania State Police. The black-white disparity is growing. So that if you are a black person holding a joint, your chances of getting arrested in this state are sky high. And they're even more so than they were before. So that it used to be blacks were 6% more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession. That was 7 years ago. And now they're 8.2 times more likely.
Okay, well, let me ask a question, though. You say it's the highway patrol mostly, so are these DUIs?
I have no idea. No, it's not that it's mostly them. It is that they are the ones that their arrests have more than doubled in 7 years.
But they aren't policing the streets. They're policing
the
highways.
They're policing highways.
So they're stopping people
Yeah, but the
for
racial
driving
disparity,
violations, and
right?
then they're getting busted for marijuana.
Yeah, having
at the
some
same
pot
time.
on them. But you know what?
So this is more an analysis of driving while black.
Not totally, because the arrests are up across the board by 33%.
I mean, what I'm saying is the probable cause for stopping the car on the highway isn't going to be that the cop saw somebody smoking or could tell that there were drugs in the car. It's going to be a moving violation, or in the absence of that, driving while black. And then when they're stopped and the window goes down, the marijuana makes itself apparent.
Maybe. So that's a lot. So that is part of the issue, but not all of it. And this disproportionate targeting of black people. You wonder why our prisons are full of black people?
You wonder why football players are taking the knee?
It's just, I can't stand it. I just can't take much more. We're going to hell in a handbasket. That's where we're going. Okay. All right. I'm in a bad mood. I wasn't in a bad mood. I'm in a bad mood now. There's the sweetest, let me try to get out of it. In the Week magazine, does anybody get this? It's a good, it's an aggregation of stuff from newspapers all over the world. And it covers it down the middle, so you'll get lefty takes and righty takes, and it's pretty damn good. And they have a last, I think, called The Last Word. And this time it's about Fred Rogers, and it's written by a guy who tells the saddest, sweetest story about how Mr. Rogers helped him once. And having known Fred, this is so like him. This guy who writes the story was a student at the University of Pittsburgh, and he was as miserable a guy as you would want. Everything in his life was messed up, absolutely everything. And he was alone, he was unhappy, he was angry. And he was walking out of a building, and he heard that, won't you be, my neighbor? And he walked into this empty common room somewhere on campus, and the TV was on, and there was Mr. Rogers. And for some reason, he stopped, and he was talking about, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And this guy he's a 20-something-year-old kid. Anyway, he says this, it looks silly to say, it felt silly even then, but I stood mesmerized. His show felt like a cool hand on a hot head. I never sat down, but I watched the whole thing, and afterward I left, feeling better. But then he says, then a few days later, he gets in an elevator at Pitt, and Mr. Rogers is in it. And Mr. Rogers nodded at him as he got on the elevator, and he nodded back. And he was freaking out that Mr. Rogers was in his elevator, but he was not going to say anything. The elevator doors open, everybody gets out. And he says this, as we stepped into the lobby, I built up my courage, and I said, Mr. Rogers, I don't mean to bother you, but I just wanted to say thanks. He smiled. I'll read this. I mean, there's something so sweet about it. He smiled patiently. I imagine this sort of thing happens to him about every 10 feet. Then he said, did you grow up as one of my television neighbors? I felt like crying. Yeah, I did. He opened his arms, lifting the satchel he was carrying into the air, and beckoned me in. It's good to see you again, neighbor, he said. hugging me. Then we were walking
Makes
out.
me cry.
Yeah, I know. Then we were walking out and making small talk. He asked if I was a student and what I was studying. I mentioned being a fan of Johnny Costa, who was the piano player on his show. Costa, as it turned out, would pass away anyway. As we talked, I marveled how Mr. Rogers I'm blanking. Then he opened the student union door. So this is in the student union. He opened the student union door and said goodbye. And that's when I blurted in a kind of rambling gush that I'd stumbled on the show again recently at a time when I really needed it. And he stopped, listened in the doorway. And when I ran out of words, I just said, so thanks for that. I mean, really, thanks for that. Again. He nodded. He looked down and let the door close. He turned to me, he undid his scarf, motioned to the window where he sat down on the ledge. Who else would have done this? He said, do you want to tell me what was upsetting you? So I sat, I told him the truth about my grandfather dying. And this story goes on about how Mr. Rogers then, that took so much time listening to this guy and telling them, it's just, it will make you cry. Shall I read some of it or not? Is enough already, huh? It just mind-blowing. Susan?
Well, I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were talking about, must have been the beginnings of the children's programming on PBS, and Mr. Rogers was testifying before Congress.
Yeah, that's a famous clip. Yep.
Yep, and his testimony before Congress and the congressional reaction resulted in congressional funding for children's programming.
They threw in the towel
for years.
Right. As soon as Fred started talking, and just in his soft little voice, telling people, I don't know.
Well, I think he read them. The words to that particular.
What do you do
song,
with a mad that's?
What do you do
with a mad that's inside when you can't? Yeah, something. I forget the words. Right. It's just one of his simple little songs, and Fred had a way of literally disarming and mesmerizing even the high and mighty with that quiet. But he was the genuine article. That's what this guy saw. He wasn't
and he figured out, clearly, he figured out how to provide good psychotherapy to generations of young children and to shepherd them through their emotions and how to deal with them and handle them appropriately. And, was just an incredible therapist.
Well, one of my favorite Mr. Rogers stories involves your son. And I told Fred this story, and he just had the biggest smile on his face when I told him. I recall your son must have been about 2, 3 at the most, and he was standing next to the swimming pool where our father was in, and our father always saying the wrong thing to a child, always, said, come on in, jump in. And Arlie wouldn't. He stood there with his little wings on his arms, and he said, no. And Dad kept saying, come on in. And Arlie said, no. And Dad said, what's wrong? You afraid? That's what I'm saying. He always said the wrong thing. What's wrong? You afraid? He said to this little kid. And Arlie said, yes, I'm afraid. And Mr. Rogers says it's okay to be afraid. So that shut our dad up. And when I told Fred that story, he just said, how wonderful. How wonderful. He'd given Arlie the tool to stand his ground to this
empowered him
to this
to
big guy in
stand
the
up for
pool
himself.
who was bullying him by saying, "What's wrong? You afraid?" Yes. And it's okay. So, yeah. We have a caller, apparently. Hello, caller. Hello? No? Oh, for Christ's sake. The caller's not there. We are so fucked up today, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Where did
You're cutting in and...
Again?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we're about...
missed every time you got...
Hello?
Hey, Lynn, this is Mike in D.C.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. Can I tell my Mr. Rogers story?
Yes, go ahead. Before we go off the air
I was
again.
doing a show for Don Brockett at the Marriott Hotel.
Okay.
And there was a Mr. Rogers medley, so Mr. Rogers came. And at the end of the show, he walked up to me in front of my mother and said, "I'm very proud of you, Michael." And to my mother's dying day, she would mention, "Do you remember when Mr. Rogers said he was proud of you?" Right?
Yeah,
no matter
right.
what I accomplished in my life,
Right.
Mr. Rogers was proud of me.
Yeah, that would be it. That's better than the good housekeeping seal of approval. Isn't he was such...
And there's not many people I can tell that story to.
Really?
You know what I mean? Unless you're from Pittsburgh and know the significance of Mr. Rogers, you know, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy." But anyway.
But he's empowered...
It was nice of him to say that.
But he's empowered kids
It was nice
all
of him to
over
say
the
that,
world.
And I was very
See,
flattered.
no one can
but
hear
to
me.
my mother, that was huge.
Well, I love it. A lot of Pittsburghers have these stories because he was out and about, and he was always kind, always there, always there. Amazing.
It wasn't an act at all.
Never. It freaked me out when I first met him and saw, my God, he really is like this. I always got a little uncomfortable because I felt like a child around him because what he was doing, he always just saw the child in everybody. Saw the hurt, saw the fear, he just identified with, I don't know, the most vulnerable. And a kinder human being did not exist. Really. Have I told you the story about the time he and I wrestled over my poop?
No. Should I have said yes so I can get off the phone?
Yeah, sure, if you want.
Yes.
Is anyone still there? Do you want to hear it or not?
Yeah, I'm here, but you are... I don't know if it's going to get better or not now, but...
Okay. Well, if it doesn't again, Susan, don't bother. The minute it goes down again, I'm out of here. Okay? But maybe I shouldn't tell this story. But it is a true story. I was very sick. Nobody knew what was wrong with me. I was undergoing tests left, right, and center. And Fred showed up one day at my door. And he said, "Hi, I was just in the neighborhood. And I wanted to see how you are. Are you okay?" So he came in, and I was sort of weak, and I said, "Well, I'm fine. We were sitting in the living room talking, and then I said, "Fred, I'm sorry, but I've got to get this sample over to Allegheny General." He said, "You have a sample that needs to go?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll take it." And I said, "Fred, it's my poop. I am not giving you my poop." He said, "I'll take it." And it's not like we physically fought over the poop, which was someplace else. But I said, "There's no way. Can you imagine anybody else carrying your poop anywhere? Let alone Mr. Rogers?" That's all I'm saying. Are we even there? No, we're not. because no one's reacting. Okay. I'm off. If anyone's still hearing anything, goodbye. I'm done for the day.
Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.
Nothing drives me crazier because